Nicholas Picholas.
Buddy, how are you?
How's it going, man? It's been a while.
It's been a hot minute. You look good.
Thanks. Yeah, right back at you, man. Thank you so much for joining I Asked No One.
It's good to be here, man. Can you hear me okay? Everything good
Yeah,
technically?
everything's perfect.
All right, sweet.
That's
A
a
nice little setup there, brother.
Oh yeah. I got Chucky. He's signed by Gojira and Mastodon. Got the logo. I got my drum kit. Got all sorts of stuff here. I like your backdrop. What is that? A tapestry you got back there? Just get you in the
Yeah,
mood.
that's a tapestry to hide the dungeon. So, don't want to
Gotcha.
share everything.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well,
No,
hey,
this is my studio. And if the camera was pointed other way, you would see, gosh, records, vinyl, autographs, pictures. Looking at an autograph of Butch Vig right now.
ooh,
Yeah, so some fun stuff.
you've met Butch Vig.
A big fan, big fan.
Yeah. How was that experience meeting Butch Vig, who produced Nirvana's Nevermind and is drummer in a band called Garbage?
Yeah, it was when he was with Garbage, and the funny thing is, I've never really been tongue tied or starstruck with anybody except that guy, and I stood there just going ha da 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 da, like I was big into Nirvana, and also a big fan of Garbage. Shirley Manson was in this other obscure Scottish band called Goodbye Mr. Mackenzie, and so I brought a ton of crap for her to autograph. I say ton of crap, maybe a couple vinyl pieces or something like that. And and Butch is there, and I didn't bring any Nirvana stuff, and so I just got an autograph from him on the photo, and so I was pretty excited about that.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still waiting for his reply back. I invited him to come on here maybe someday. By chance, you mentioned Nirvana. Were you there at the Alumni Arena at UB in December of '93 for Nirvana?
No, I had seen them. I had seen them in Toronto at a gig,
Oh, shit.
and I think I was at that time. I was probably back and forth between Toronto and here. I don't think I was quite here yet. In around UB or that. Yeah, I wasn't here for that. I think I was kind of in and out of town, but more based out of Toronto at that time.
Yeah, I remember you talking about your experience, some of your experiences in Toronto, which we'll get into. And dude, I just want to start off just a cheers right off the bat. Future sponsor right here.
Many bad decisions come from that right there. Yeah.
Yeah, good times, good times. And happy birthday to my younger brother, Leonard Joseph Lavello. He turned 30 yesterday. So happy birthday, Len.
Come on. That's awesome. All right. Good for you. My buddy used to have a Jägermeister tattoo on his liver.
Did he?
Sure did.
You're giving me ideas. Can you tattoo organs?
No, not. I mean, over his over his liver.
Really? Well, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Okay. But anyway, and I also want to cheers too, because COVID-19, here in New York State, Andrew Cuomo, our governor, is really loosened up the restrictions as of yesterday. I heard some fireworks going off, and my girlfriend Ashlyn, she was mentioning that those fireworks are for celebrating the COVID. I did not know. I live under a rock, this rock and roll rock. And
well, here's the thing: follow the science right to the fireworks at the falls, and there it is. It was pretty cool. It was a celebration of hitting that 70% mark with vaccinations, whatever. So that's a big deal. But also, it was a thank you celebration to those that worked through this whole thing and the essentials, from the people working at the grocery stores and gas stations to public service to whoever was out there working, right through to the healthcare workers and all that. So that was part of it, and I appreciate that, because all through this whole thing, and we're just sort of on the, I don't know if we're in a lull or if we're on the backside of it, but we're in this spot where it's starting to feel like we're maybe through the worst of it right now. And knowing all those people that worked through all of it, it's pretty cool, because a lot of people, aren't, the healthcare workers obviously got a lot of love, but then there are a lot of people that were also just doing their job, doing their thing. Think about every time you went to the drive-through during a pandemic and someone was there. So, right. It's cool that they got celebrated by New York State doing something cool with their fireworks budget.
I'm in real estate, so it was a little weird last year, and I've got some clients and I've got some friends that are in the front lines there in the hospitals and Roswell Park Cancer Institute. So,
Mhm.
Fuck yeah to them. And the top of every episode, man, I like to start off with a little fact of the day, and something I thought you would, get a kick at. June the 16th, in 1988, Vince Neil of Mötley Crüe, he married. This is just after the Girls, Girls, Girls tour. So just to find out that he actually married a girl after Girls, Girls, Girls is pretty wild. He married a mud wrestler model, Sharise Ruddell. Mötley Crüe is always a good time. Did you see them back in the 80s there, Nick?
No, I was not into that, dude. I was a keyboard band guy. If the band had keyboards, and more specifically, if they were New Order or The Cure, then absolutely I was at that show. But my friends were into bands like that. I was into Van Halen. I was exposed to a lot of metal as a kid, and also I worked at a store. I worked at a record store. If you've ever seen the movie High Fidelity,
never seen it. No, actually.
Picture that kind of record store. It's about life working in a record store. Not just a store you buy records at, but a record store by the culture of it, where they're obsessed with the music. And it's a lot of characters that come in. I worked at one of those kind of stores in Toronto called the Record Peddler, and it was across the street from the entrance of Maple Leaf Gardens, which the Leafs would play hockey. But then at night, great concert venue, AC/DC, every big act that came to town would do a gig at Maple Leaf Gardens. Like in Buffalo, they do a KeyBank Center, or whatever you want to call the arena. Yeah. All those legendary rock shows. Working across the street from there was pretty cool. And the guy I worked with at the store was a punk producer named Brian. And Brian would obsess over albums. And I remember he would just play Metallica over and over and over and over. So the new album came out. This had to be 1989. And I've probably heard the song 1,000 times just from working at the store, because he might just leave it on that. And it was, I think, it was just CDs. CDs had just started at that time. And it would just play on a very loud sound system, like concert level loud in a record store. And so that was my exposure to a lot of those different things. So between, it was that and Ministry, Mind is a Terrible Thing to Taste. Those two albums back and forth, and then put Body Count or Ice-T in the mix there as well. So it was a pretty fun dive into some heavy music. So not into the hair bands, but definitely exposed to a lot of cool music at the time.
That is awesome, man. And Justice for All, Metallica, came out in November of '88, so it was right around that time. And then you bring up that Ministry record that came out, I think that was 91 or 90. They're going on a 30th anniversary tour of that record. They're coming through Buffalo at Riverworks. And
I bought tickets the moment they went on sale. I saw them last time they were here.
Yeah.
And it's funny because my friend's presenting the show, and tickets went on sale, and I'm like, hey dude, I bought tickets. He's like, you could have just asked for them. I'm like, nah, I want to have a ticket. I want to support what you do, because this has been after a year of no shows. I'm like, I'm very happy to throw money into whatever it is that you need to do to survive. So I'm a big Ministry fan. Last time they came to town, I wore all white to the show just because I knew I'd be the only guy wearing all white.
All right.
Kind of made me chuckle, but I'm a big Ministry fan since before they were metal. They were like a little keyboard band out of Chicago.
Wow.
And, yeah, it's fun. It's fun to watch the evolution of Al.
Yeah, Al Jorgensen, what a crazy motherfucker. There's some stories of him, even backstage at Metallica concerts, just going butt-ass naked in locker rooms and Lars and asking for beers and stuff like that. I don't know really anything about Ministry, man. I'm getting there. I should know them. I like industrial kind of music.
Yeah, I've known them more as an electronic industrial band, because that's where they started, and they've just transitioned to full metal. I don't know what you call it. It's fun. A lot of riffs, man. They just love the riffs, a good guitar riff, and Al seems to be a happy boy.
Awesome. Yeah, I love a good heavy riff, a little palm mute in there. Man, so the opener for that show is going to be Helmet. Paige Hamilton was on the show previously. I'll be on the list there, and he's got a case of Budweiser's coming his way, because he joined me and he was going through some Budweiser beers.
Didn't they do a song with House of Pain? Just Another Victim.
Yes.
Judgment Night soundtrack.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
That is Judgment.
There's a nice little, I'm pretty sure that was their collabo, but I do remember. Yeah, that's a time when the arena rock became a thing, where all
Yes.
these metal bands were collaborating with rap artists or whatever. But that soundtrack was pretty cool. So yeah, I'm a big Helmet fan as well. So that's cool.
Right on, man. Yeah, that song you just mentioned, that was Taz on the WWF. That was one of his remix songs.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. But again, we have Nicholas Picholas here, Kiss 98.5 morning show host. One last fact of the day here. I just got to say, shout out to the almighty Black Sabbath, because in the year 2013, they released their final record that went #1 in the UK. And it was 42 years and 8 months since they had their last #1 in the UK, which was, of course, Paranoid record with Iron Man and War Pigs in 1970. So Sabbath, I've seen them coast to coast. Did you see Sabbath on any of the Ozfests over the years at all? Or
I've interviewed Ozzy. I've interviewed Sharon. I've never met them. The closest I came, my good friend's husband managed the tour for Ozfest, so we got a lot of good stories on Ozfest, but I did not attend. Wow. So there's a lot of gaps in shows that I wish I could have seen, but I work at night generally. Like, I'm usually at a club or an event or something DJing, and so I kind of miss out on a lot of shows. So that's my excuse. When I can go, I go.
Right. I gotta ask, how's your family doing these days? All right.
They're really good. So I'm married. Megan is my wife. I don't know if you've met Megan, but she's we've socialized with you and your family and stuff. I've got 3 little kids, and when I say little, my youngest guy is 6 years old. My middle daughter is 9 years old, and then I have a 14-year-old daughter who's just kind of finding her way in music, and I love it because she'll come to me with, Dad, have you heard of this band? And I'm like, yeah, I've heard of this band. And last week it was the Smiths. And she's like, Dad, have you ever heard of the Smiths? And I'm like, yeah, that's probably a decade of my life.
Yeah.
Being, into a band. But I probably was around her age when I started getting into the Smiths. So I'm excited that she discovers these bands. And
how is she discovering these? Just YouTubing around or what?
I don't know. Spotify playlists.
Okay.
She pokes through my record collection. She has a turntable in her bedroom. So she's got some new vinyl. And then also she kind of just rummages through. I've got about 30,000 pieces of vinyl here. And she goes through that and sort of pulls stuff out that looks interesting. And, you discover stuff the same way anybody discovers music. It's different now because of the digital angle from when I grew up. But it's more out there, and you don't have to have it in your hand. You just have to know about it and kind of know how to spell it. And then there it is. Where back in the day, there was a journey involved with going out to buy a piece of product, whether it be record or vinyl or CD. You had to go out and get it, which I think is a whole different game now. So it's much easier. You can just hear about a band or hear a riff or a song or something, and then click, there it is.
I'm with you, man. I'm part of the old school, in that you go to the record store, you go to the CD shop, which is not too many of those, but I go on Amazon.com and I get these boxes in and unwrap them, throw that shit in the car, and there's just there's a novelty about it that I'm in love with. But congratulations to you, man. Since I last saw you, your wife gave birth to 2 kids.
Yeah. We have 2 kids. There's little Otto. Otto has the same name as his cousin who's in a metal band, and he's a metal bass player. Hardcore. He's got the beautiful long hair. He's in a band called Delane, which has just broken up, but he was in it, and I think maybe 3 months ago they disbanded, and so now he's doing his other passions, which are photography, and he's got a family and stuff like that. But that's, he's a notable metal band that toured the world and stopped in Buffalo at a couple dates. We had the band over at the house a couple times. So he has the same name as my little boy, Otto. And then I have a daughter, Lola, who I mentioned is 9 years old, and she's a little firecracker personality, obsessed with Star Wars and pulling pranks on people. So yeah, the family's growing.
All right. Love it. Love to hear that. But again, we have Nicholas Picholas, 98.5, Kiss 98.5. Man, your voice, just hearing it now, I grew up listening to your voice, man. My mother,
That's
my
cool.
sweet mother, Jackie, we would wake up in the morning to go to elementary school, maybe even middle school too, but we'd wake up and she would comb our hair in the morning in elementary school. And we
Looks like she still does, brother. Your hair looks tight, looks good.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah. Well, thank you. So does yours, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, and mom, she would comb our hair with that piece of shit wall mount, radio on Kiss 98.5, and you would help wake us up into going to elementary school.
Oh,
and
that's cool.
The rides to and from the mall and stuff like that. Mom always had Kiss 98.5, you guys on. God, Nicholas Picholas and
Janet Snyder.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
we've been doing that show for a bunch of years.
yeah.
And it's funny because there's lots of people that have your exact same story. And so I hear that a lot of people are just like, oh my God, I've listened to you since I've been listening to stuff, and here we are we're still very much doing our thing on the radio. And it's like a 4-hour podcast every day. We Kiss 98.5 is a top 40 current type morning show. We don't play a whole lot of music, so it really is more of a talk show element. We just talk about what's going on, and sometimes it has to do with the music, sometimes it doesn't. And it's just kind of like to start the day on the right note. I don't know how to put it. We're not shock jocks. We tell fun stories, we tell interesting stories, curious stories. Last year through the pandemic has been, obviously there's been a serious tone to everything, but still trying to find the light, the fun. The goal is just to I guess make for a happy city, and hopefully we've done that and keep doing that every day.
Love Buffalo, city of good neighbors.
Yes.
One of the most underrated food towns in the world.
Yeah.
Any chance I get to mention that, and I ask no one, I have to do it. Well, are you back in the studio yet? Are you going to be back there soon?
Back and forth.
Okay.
We've kind of learned how to do it both ways very well. So we kind of jump around given schedules and stuff like that. It's no day is the same, put it that way. So this morning I was here. I'd probably be in on Friday. Like, we just kind of bounce around. So it's we're very lucky that we're able to do that kind of seamlessly.
So you guys just plug in and you go for 4 hours. You just have a conversation. Do you have like an itemized list of things you want to bring up? Like, how do you attack every single day that you've been doing this for so many years?
It's kind of, we used to, and now it's I would say an unwritten list, but it's just, to me, it's kind of obvious. I'm like, okay, well, I know what the buzz stories are. I know what I know what's going on. I also know that, there are individual things that go on in our lives, which might be content, may not. It's sometimes I'll be into a store and I'm like, it's not interesting. Let's move along. So, you know what I mean? You got to edit in your head and just try and have some fun and relate and, be human, I guess. I don't know. I try being human. Right. It's fun.
It is. And, well, being human in the morning may kind of suck for me because, man,
what time do you wake up? You're a normal person.
Well, I wake up, I'm in real estate, I go to bed. That's it. I'm trying to create that work-life balance, getting there. But, man, I was up this morning at 5:12, and I do that because that was the prison cell that Randy Blythe was in Pankrat's prison in Prague. He was in 512. Previous guest, check out the episode right above. But 5:12, I went to the gym. I want to get this going. I go for a week. It's gone for a month. I wake up at 8, whatever. Which brings me to the quote of the day. And today's quote is an old Zen proverb: let go or be dragged. And sometimes to get my ass out of bed, you got to fucking drag my ass out. And I don't know how you do it in the morning. You stay awake. You guys had such engaging conversation, you and Janet. What gets you up in the morning, man? Do you have an alarm clock? It's
a routine. I mean, it's I will wake up without alarm clock kind of around the same time.
What time?
There's a 4 in the number.
Okay. Right.
I'll wake up in the 4 o'clock hour. It depends where I'm working out of the next day. So if I need to work travel time in, I will wake up earlier, but generally in the 4 o'clock hour. Which by all accounts, is the middle of the night for a normal human who goes to bed around midnight, wakes up around 8. 4 o'clock is dead center in the middle.
Scary.
So I get up, and again, given whatever the day is, that's around the start of the day, and I'm just routine immediately, 2 big glasses of water. Always, even if I'm working out of a home studio or whatever, always kind of shower and prepare and kind of look the part.
Coffee,
as best as I can.
Metallica. I mean, what?
No music in the morning.
Okay.
No, but and I say that because the rest of the house is sleeping.
All right.
So I wouldn't even, I've always been in that situation kind of where I got to worry about someone sleeping. So I am as quiet as I can be. And then just sort of track down information and see what's happened, since I'm sort of following stuff up until I fall asleep information wise, as most people are,
Yeah,
just noodling around on your phone. It's all coming at you. You got to figure out what's interesting and what's not. And then your own curiosities get in the way, and you start to rabbit hole down a thought. So I really have to pay attention in the morning to be like, okay, focus. What's going on in the world? How does this affect me, us, everyone in our community? Is always my big kind of concern. Is a fun story is a fun story, but if it doesn't affect Western New York one little bit or have any connection, it moves down the list. I kind of, want to keep connected with what matters to this area, because we are a local radio show. We service Western New York, the 716, whatever we're calling it now.
Yeah. The almighty 98, KISS 98.5 was Picholas. My Aunt Liz, she was wondering, what is Picholas your last name? It's got to be for something. What is your last name, Nick? My dad says you got like 46 syllables in that or something like that.
He's close. He's very close. It is an old Dutch name. It's old. It's new to me. I was born with it. Schimmelpenninck Van Der Hoy is, it's 25 letters. And it's an old Dutch name that goes back centuries and centuries. And it's a lot of letters in there. It doesn't sound as bad, but there's a lot of letters in there, 25 letters. And it's just an old family name out of the Netherlands, which is where my dad is from. And we lived there for a little while, and one of my favorite places to go. And I've seen some concerts there. I saw Bob Geldof play with the Boomtown Rats, which was pretty cool.
Ooh.
And that was before Live Aid. Played with the Fix, and then I don't know who else was on the bill. Saw maybe band called Rough Trade opening up for Minkdeville, I think. Yeah, Minkdeville, New York band. So some fun concerts in the Netherlands. Anyhow, Dutch family name, long family name. No, Nicholas Picholas came up because I had a completely ridiculous radio name that I couldn't use. Like I can't use my own name. So we're drumming up different ideas, and the lady I worked with would just call me Nicholas Picholas as a joke, because that's what she called her nephew, whose name was Nicholas. As a little rhymey dumb thing, and that rhymey dumb thing has stuck with me since then. So it's worked okay. I did a lot of television in Canada. I did 15 years of a video game show called Nintendo Video and Arcade Top 10, sponsored by Nintendo, and we played Nintendo games. But I used that name during the whole run of this show, 700 and something episodes of Video and Arcade Top 10, which was a YTV show. US didn't get it. If you are in Canada, chances are you caught it at some point, because it was on for 15 seasons. Wildly popular kids game show.
Damn. You're from Toronto, or where were you born?
I was born in New York. So New Rochelle, New York.
Yep.
And we moved around a lot. And then in high school, kind of landed in suburban Toronto, migrated to Toronto at some point, the city. And then after that was back and forth. I chanced into making a friend in Buffalo. He worked at the radio station. He asked me to come work down there. I had already started radio in Toronto at 102.1, which at the time was CFNY. Kind of a groundbreaking alt station up there. They're now the Edge up in Toronto. And and kind of migrated down to the US because I had multi-citizenship, so I could work anywhere pretty much.
Toronto holds a dear spot in my heart, because that's the first time I ever saw a rock concert. and that was Toronto Summer Sanitarium 2003. At age 15, it was Metallica,
Yeah.
headlining Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit, Deftones, Mudvayne, and
That's a hell of a lineup.
yeah, we were up there in the nosebleeds. I was inhaling weed for the first time in my life. Me and Ryan up there with our buddy Jared, and but Toronto, man. So was your first job that record store there across from?
No, no. I'm trying to think. How did I end up there? I lived I lived on the other side of Maple Leaf Gardens. So I was in a condo there, and literally I could go through an alleyway beside the stadium to this record store. Not that I took the job for location, but I was working at one around the corner, and that was like a dance DJ record store where all the DJs would come in to get their 12-inch single vinyl. But I liked more alternative stuff, so I would shop at the Record Peddler, and I went in looking for a job just to get more hours because I had to pay for the condo. And I went to their, it's funny. So the store was the Record Peddler. It's run by a couple dudes. I went to their head office, which wasn't the store. The guy hired me, told me to start on whatever day, Monday, beginning of the week, but didn't tell anybody in the store that I was coming to work there. So I show up at, the doors open or whatever. I walk in and I'm like, hi, I'm Nick. And, guy goes, hi, I'm Brian. And we just stare at each other for a moment. And he doesn't say a thing. And he's like, it's just a lot of attitude on Brian. And it was great. And I'm like, I'm working here. And he goes, well, so am I. And this little cute, sarcastic back and forth goes back and forth until finally he's got to call the guy that owns the store to be like, did you hire a guy? He goes, oh, yeah. I forgot to tell you. So it was just funny showing up at work where no one expects you to show up. You think you are welcome and you're not, because they just don't know who this random dude is. But that was, I still talk about, like, if I could pick one job to do for the rest of my life, working in a record store with attitude was probably one of the funnest things I've ever done. It was just a lot of character, a lot of good fun.
Man.
And like Skinny Puppy lived down the street, so they would come in all the time. There was also Sebastian Bach, who during that time was just getting picked up by the majors. He would come in. He lived in like Richmond Hill. He lived north of Toronto, and he would get mocked relentlessly by Brian at the front desk. I think Brian's passed away, by the way. That's what I understand. He was running a record store last I heard in Toronto, but I'm pretty sure he passed away. So anyhow, I'm talking a lot about Brian. The store was a lot of fun. It was called the Record Peddler, and that's where I got to run into Lars from Metallica. Had no idea it was him.
Damn. Yeah, because you're at a record store, you're working there, and you're right by the Maple Leaf Gardens, which then was the ACC, and then it's now
no, it was Maple Leaf Gardens at the time. It then became ACC, and now I think they tore it down.
Yeah.
No, it was never ACC. It was always Maple Leaf Gardens. They moved it so the Leafs started playing down closer to the lake downtown. Gotcha. We were Midtown. We were on Carlton, and so Maple Leaf Gardens. I don't know. Timeline was I had left the city, so I don't know what got torn down. But at the time, right across the street, Maple Leaf Gardens, the entrance, and then we were in like a little retail location, kind of a dank import specialty rock weird music record store.
Yeah, and you guys are blasting Metallica, and you're blasting one over and over. That's awesome, man. And you probably get guys that come in on buses and they just want some time to kill, and they just shoot over to the record store to maybe see what's up.
So that happened more often than not. Whenever the bands would come in, they're going to go to whatever's close by. Like they do sound check, and then there's time to kill, and generally they'd stay in the hotel, which was within that block. So you're part of the landscape of that street.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget the day of all the people that worked at the store, there was, I want to say, okay. So a dude from Monster Voodoo Machine was working at the store. Adam Sewell, who, if you've never checked out Monster Voodoo Machine or his music, he's definitely a dude to check out. Very creative. Adam worked at the store. Chris worked there. Chris was into like industrial Skinny Puppy. Brian was into punk. I was the electronic music guy. So at the time, electronic music was more KM, FDM, industrial, Nights of Reb, stuff like that. So this dude comes in, and Brian's like, Nick, help this guy out. He likes that stuff you like. So we probably spend an hour going around the store and flipping through vinyl and, asking him questions. And then at the time we had just started selling CDs. So we had, a few hundred CDs in the collection, and I'm pulling stuff out. Well, he buys everything I put in front of him. I make a big stack for him, and he grabs it and he pays for it. And I'm like, that's a big sale, man. That's like a few $100s. This guy has got a lot of music. And so he walks out, and Brian just looks at me and goes, "You have no idea, do you?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Do you have any idea who that was?" And I'm like, "Well, I think that guy's on tour with the band tonight, whoever's playing." And Brian goes, "Really? What do you think? What do you think he's doing on the tour?" And I'm like, "Pretty sure he's a drum tech, because he had those little drum keys. He had one of those on his keychain." And it was Lars, and I just had no idea. And Brian just kept throwing stuff at me because I was such an idiot that I didn't realize who I was talking to. And I was more thrilled that he liked everything I was giving him, and bought this whole stack of music and stuff like that. But
that is so awesome.
Let me tell you, super nice guy, really into, discovering new music and stuff like that. Kept talking about the producers on stuff. So he's really keyed into not just the music, but how it's put together and all that stuff. So he's a super nice dude and fun interaction. And I knew he was somebody, but I literally believed he was like the drum tech or some kind of roadie or something like that. But it was Lars from Metallica. I later found out.
In the description below, I'm going to include the date of that show and the set list and what was played.
Oh, cool.
I'm just curious, man. I'm just going back to my encyclopedia head here.
Mm-hmm.
Was that 89 when they played Toronto with Queens?
It would have to be.
Or is it with Aerosmith?
I don't know.
No? Okay.
Yeah, that's some setlist.fm stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
Around. I just remember that was them. They played that night. And more importantly, so Chris, who worked at the store, was a big bootlegger for concerts, because that's what you had to do at the time. So he would go with a really, hi-fi cassette recorder, and he would put a microphone on each shoulder of his jacket, like clip them to his like little leather jacket lapel-y things. And he would go and record the show. Brian would know this and often walk up to him and like speak into the microphone during the show. So you'd have these bootlegs of the show that he would sell, but then you'd have Brian at some point just kind of whispering weird things into the microphone, and it would piss the other guy off so much. It really made me laugh. But yeah, back in the day of bootlegging, Chris, I won't mention his last name. I don't know what the statute of limitations is on that, but he would sell a lot of bootleg tapes out of the store. People come in and be like, he'd have like the Metallica show, like the next day he'd be duping tapes and stuff like that.
Tape trading, bootleg.
Oh, tape trading was a big deal. So somewhere out there are recordings of that show that Chris absolutely taped and sold.
Killer.
Under the table through the record store. So, shenanigans, fun stuff.
Chris sounds like a fun guy. Brian sounds like a fun coworker and a half. Yeah. And wow, that is so awesome. Just meeting Lars, and I've met him formally once, Indio Big Four.
Yeah, but you knew who he was. That's the difference.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Well, you hung out with him. You sold him 200 records. You guys are just going through. That's hilarious, man. Damn.
I know, 200 records. I was a few $100 worth of records.
Or $200 worth of records. Yeah. Wow. Well, it
was fun. So chance encounter, and again, didn't appreciate it. Didn't know until Brian told me.
The almighty, man. You talk about Star Wars, thank the maker, C-3PO says. Lars Ulrich is the maker. Lars Ulrich has only ever been in one band ever, and that was Metallica. He is a big influence on me, like Dave Grohl is in Nirvana and Sean Kinney is with Alice in Chains. Lars, top of the list. In fact, today, they just announced 7 dates that they're going to be appearing in Europe stadiums in 2022. And you bring up the Netherlands, man. I always thought you were Greek or something, something.
You would think with a name like Nicolas Picholas, but no, very Dutch. I mean, my mom's from Paris. My dad's from the Netherlands, but she was born in Paris. She comes from British descent. So I would say I'm probably somewhere between very Dutch and some British descent, and then Russian as well on my mother's side of the family. So
gotcha.
We're a little hodgepodge.
Come and join my brother and I next year while we go to Landgraaf, Netherlands at the Pinkpop Music Festival.
Oh, I know Pinkpop.
Yeah, Pinkpop. It's got that girl logo, that really evil looking girl. And I've always appreciated that particular festival because it's surrounded by trees. I get the chills mentioning this because you see videos of the band playing. They played there in '08, and then they played there again. I'll fact check that and include it in below. But man, they got trees on the side of the stage, and the Dutch. I've never been. Heineken factory maybe is close to there, or Amsterdam.
They got a lot of history.
Yeah, right.
More than the beer, but yeah, I would. When you go, hit me up. I will set you up. You got to go to The Hague. It's where the World Court is, and it's a beautiful city. Amsterdam is fun, touristy. There's a lot to that country, and I lived there as a little kid, and I'd been back as an adult, but it is. It's hard to say. It's probably the only place I feel at home, and I wasn't born there, but I'm just very comfortable being there for whatever reason.
Why is that? Just the people, the weather?
I don't know. I will tell you, it struck me walking around the streets, and maybe it's in the DNA. I don't know. I feel very at home there. So I think there's more to it than just good weather or nice people. I think it's, I think we're born with things inside of us, DNA and stuff like that, or whatever carries from generation to generation. I connect with that country more than, and I've been in Paris as well. I liked Paris. I did not feel at home there, even in my mother's neighborhood. She grew up, by the Arc de Triomphe. So I went there hoping I would feel some sort of something. I didn't. Definitely the Netherlands. So yeah, beautiful country. And like I said, there's a lot to it. Go for the concert, stay for the history.
Yeah. Ryan and I, that's one of our plans Ryan lives out in Athens, Greece, my twin brother. He worked at Ingram Micro here in town, tech sales. He's now working for a company called Citrix, which I'm sure you've heard about, cloud technology for the Fortune 500 companies. And he's got clients in Israel and South Africa, and he's all over the place from the islands and shit. Right. So we're going to go visit his ass. Wow. That's awesome. So the best concert that you've ever been to? Let's hear it.
It's hard to say. It's going to bother you because Coldplay might be up there with the best concert experience, and I would say probably Coldplay, whatever Sky Dome is or was. I don't know what the heck they call it now. Sky Dome,
Rogers Center,
CN Tower there. Yeah, Rogers Center, lit up with the tour colors. That was special. Paid through the face for some great seats. The Police.
The 07?
No, the Police Picnic, 80. 84. I don't know.
Rally, man.
Yeah, it was the Police, the English Beat, the Fix, Peter Tosh, Blue Peter, some local Toronto bands.
New Wave.
So those are some, and so it's favorite concerts. It's way more than just the show, just the act. It is really who you're with, what you're doing, hands down. Okay, so New Order, Echo and the Bunnymen, Gene Loves Jezebel, Toronto, because Echo and the Bunnymen's doing Killing Moon. There was one of those, those when the moon rises, the summer moon rises. Yeah. That was happening off to the side behind like the band that was occurring. And then New Order was great live. So I don't know, some memorable concerts, but
give me the chills, man.
I've been to a lot of different shows. Prince, I saw Prince back then, like 88 Love Sexy tour, and then saw him again when he was doing his greatest hits tour, and then kind of his NPG moments. Those were some memorable shows. I've been to some shows that are just memorable because I don't know why. Like they're just the English Beat is one that comes to mind. I got to see it was I think just Dave Wakeling and what is left over of the English Beat or new members, but that was a real special show just because that was a big band to me kind of growing up in high school. So it's all about what you listen to in high school. I think with 90% of the music you love, that's a really pivotal year. And that is why I really key in on what my daughter's listening to now that she's in high school. So I'm like, this is the music that's going to stay with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, definitely. Same way. POD, Limp Bizkit, Linkin Park, Korn.
POD.
Yeah, I just had a meet and greet with those guys. They're 20 years of their satellite record. They're going to be going on touring that. But let me ask you, does the name Mike Killian ring a bell?
Help me out.
Mike Killian works at Beaumont Jewelers. He's a president there. And I saw him this past December. You connected Mike Killian in 1996, right when the HSBC Arena opened up. You hooked him up with Fleetwood Mac tickets.
I did.
You did. And
hell of a nice guy. That's amazing.
He's never forgotten that.
Oh wow.
You know, he's selling diamonds, just slinging all this kind of stuff, and that's his concert. And you know, I told him about my interests in having you on, and
oh wow,
yeah, he went out. He kind of lit up, man, and you really changed his life there. So
that's cool. I learned something recently. So you talk about these little moments in life that might not, like, I don't remember doing that. It sounds like something I would do. When people ask, I try and hook up with tickets, and it's become less easy now just because of the industry. But when I did my TV show in Toronto, we had a production assistant, James, who worked on the show, and James was having, like, he'd had a big loss in his life and kind of needed a pick me up. And so I'm like, James, man, come on down. We're doing this Kiss the Summer Hello concert. We used to do it at that time at the Pier, which is now Outer Harbor. And it was this sort of bar right on the water. And we had a bunch of acts there, like a festival type affair. And Kanye West was on that bill. And Kanye West at the time, I would say nobody knew who the hell it was. Like, he was a new guy with a song, and his keyboard player was a dude named John Legend. Nobody knew who he was.
Get out of here.
But they came and they performed the show, and James is with me. And at some point during the day, James gets sort of pulled out of side stage, which is where he was my guest there. So we get access. It's our show. So we're kind of standing side stage, and some big man kind of grabs James and goes, "Come with me." And James like, "Should I go?" And I'm like, "Yeah, go. I don't know who that guy is, but go, have fun." He's bigger than me. And next thing I see, James is on stage with Kanye West, and James is dancing around and having fun and just being, 20 or whatever. I don't know. He was younger than that. He had to be like 18 or something.
He was on the stage with them.
On the stage with Kanye West and John Legend, being part of like a party crowd. And that moment made such an impact on James. He went on to what is now a very successful career in music and music promotion. He managed a bunch of bands, toured with a bunch of bands, and now he does pop promotion for Universal Records, and kind of found his way in music with that one little moment. He told me that day changed his, like, anything is possible, and I love this business kind of perspective. Because at the time, you're a young kid, you don't know what the hell you can do. And he goes, that really just kind of opened my eyes to what I really love, which is music, and he found a career in it. So now, he's a record executive kind of guy, working for a big label, working with the big stars. And so now I got to hit him up for stuff. So it's kind of fun. So one of those little moments of just helping out somebody that, doing a good deed. So I still try and hook people up with stuff if they need hooking up. So at this point, I would have gone to that Fleetwood Mac show myself. I'm probably a bigger fan now than I was in '96, but I'm glad that Mr. Killian got to enjoy the show.
I'm going to send him the episode here. As soon as I have this, it's going to go live. I go live I don't go live. Sometimes go live. This is now turned into me connecting with people that I admire in music, in, acting, bodybuilding, cameras, all that kind of stuff. So I really appreciate it. I'm here with Nicholas Picholas, Kiss 98.5. And you talking about that kind of brings up a question that my cousin Kelly, my oldest cousin Kelly Burns.
I know Kelly. Kelly's the best.
Isn't she? Yeah,
she actually has a radio story that kind of made me chuckle. Last time I saw her, she's like, "You turned me on to some music or something," and I can't remember what it was, but we were playing a song, or I don't know. She called into the station to try and figure out what a song was, and I think it was Sneaker Pimps or Portishead, or one of those kind of trippy kind of 90s
underground,
Six Underground or something. I can't remember what it was, but then also she's a huge fan of Thievery Corporation, and we share a lot of musical tastes. So I forgot she was your cousin. That's cool.
Yeah, she's the oldest of our 17 cousins. She was born in the winter blizzard of 1977 here in Buffalo.
A great deal of fact checking. Let me tell you, as a person that does a show, I do not do that much fact checking. I try and round it off to the closest decade.
Yeah, thanks,
So
man.
kudos. You're a great fact checker. You should work for Fox News or whatever they don't do.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that. It really means a lot. And the question that Kelly had for you was, what makes you special? Yeah.
I don't know. Nothing. I don't know. I bizarre question to ask. You should ask her. I don't know. For me, absolutely zip nothing. I would if you ask for 100 words to describe me, special would not make that list of those 100 words. I don't know. I don't know what makes anybody. I have some unique quirks, interests, hobbies, a lot of personal dichotomies of my career has been working for a top 40 pop music station. That's not what I listen to or live at all, but I love it. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I wake up in the morning and currently play Justin Bieber records. Whatever you want to call it. Those songs that are pop, which carries good and bad connotations. And I get it. I gravitate to music that is not that, but I appreciate kind of all the different things. Like all the bands that you've mentioned and talked about, I know all of them. I have been immersed in that. It's not what I'm obsessed with. I don't think I'm obsessed with any kind of music, but so that's one of those weird things in my life is that I've just sort of had a lot of opportunities to do different things. I haven't traveled around the world, but I have traveled to places in the world. You're much better traveled than me. You follow bands. I would never do that. If they come here, that's great. The farthest I'll go, Cleveland. It's my limit. It's as far as I'll go for a band. If you can't come any closer to my house, you're dead to me. So I can't answer that question because I would never, I don't think of myself as special.
Well, without answering that question, I think you answered it perfectly, my man. And I think Kelly will love to hear that. And that's a really funny.
And tell her congratulations, by the way. I know her secret.
Okay, I will. She's getting married soon. Maybe it's that.
That might be the secret. Maybe it's not so much of a secret, but she is. And I'm very happy for her. And that's great.
Love you, Kel. Love you. And I just, I forget, I have to ask you, man. And you for 15 years were on a video game TV show. What the hell?
Oh my God.
Like you just played.
You're probably the first podcast I've been on where that isn't the topic because yes. So there's, I need to explain a little bit.
Yeah.
You're familiar with the Nickelodeon network here in the US, right?
Sure.
In Canada, they had their own version of youth-oriented programming. It was called YTV for youth television. And they did stuff that was, I don't want to say a TV babysitter, but I couldn't think of another phrase to describe it. But if you wanted to put your kids in front of a TV for a little bit during the day and just have them consume stuff, they had like, they didn't do DJs, they did PJs, which were programming jockeys. So it would be like a PJ would come on and kind of host a block of programming. So for 4 hours, you'd have Phil do fun stuff and just be kind of crazy. And somewhere along the way, this producer who had worked on a show called AT40, American Top 40, the TV show, decided to do a show in Canada based on this crazy thing called video games. And video games were still, I don't say infancy, but
Atari days or NES?
NES.
NES, okay.
Nintendo game. So the Atari had come out. There were some different sort of home. So home gaming was just young. A few kids at school might have a system. Like that's how young it was. And it was a big spend. It was a big gift. This was a once a year gift kind of gift. So those games were in homes. This guy produced a show called Video and Arcade Top 10. And it was basically kids would come on. There'd be 4 kids competing against each other, playing the same game, trying to get the farthest in the game or collect the most whatevers. And then there'd be a few talking heads kind of on stage going through, explaining what the game's about, a couple tips and tricks, then some pop culture stuff, and then back to the game. Winner wins a prize, move on, next round. This repeated for 782 times. I joined on at the end of the first season as a peripheral sort of extra host, like I was the 4th guy on the list of hosts. And then one day the main dude didn't show up or had a row with the producer. And I moved into that spot of the lead host and just kept doing that for a long time. That's basically it. That show, wildly popular, but only in Canada and maybe on a few cable systems. I know it was on a Los Angeles satellite cables. I don't know what. I have friends from LA say that they saw it growing up. So that's basically it. And I do a lot of discussions and some fan expo things surrounding my time on Video and Arcade Top 10. So in the States, it just isn't a thing. Across the border in Canada, it was a premium cable option. Like you got YTV. If you had cable, you probably had YTV. And it's more everywhere now, but at the time, it was a thing. It was on once a week and the ratings were bananas and it was pre-internet. So the only way you'd find out about video games really was this show at the time for the most part.
Yeah.
And it was super fast paced. It was live to tape, live audience. You don't stop unless the director tells you to stop, which was very funny. So I learned how to speak very quickly, read a teleprompter very quickly. And it was a lot of hard work, television wise, like production wise.
Yeah. That's a long time to be doing a video game TV show. That sounds
15 years. I always point out is longer than Seinfeld. You know what I mean? Like 9 years is generally what a show runs when it's a sitcom. Obviously this wasn't the same thing, but it was the longest running kids game show in Canada. And I think still is. So
that's so cool. What's the name of the show again?
Video and Arcade Top 10. And it's there, you find it on YouTube. You can poke around and basically see this guy a little bit younger, all versions of skinny and fat, because it was on for 15 years. And it's just, I don't know, it's fun to watch. I'm sometimes embarrassed by it. Sometimes I love it. It depends on the day.
I'm going to look some episodes up. I'll include that in the description below. I did see video game things with your name. I was doing a little digging of some information.
Yeah, then that would be the connection, is that there's I've been to a few events where it was a very meaningful show for a lot of people, and then a lot of game developers as well, like people that went on to make the games are like, oh man, I used to watch you all the time, or they got their letter read on the air, or they actually appeared on the show, or whatever. It wasn't the highest production value show, but it was a lot of fun, and the crew that worked on the show. One of my co-hosts is just funny because I ran across her face on the Hallmark Channel. She's on Aurora Tea Garden. Ask your mom. I bet she's watched it.
Okay.
She plays Allison, and she was a co-host on the show. So Aurora Tea Garden is a show on the Hallmark Channel, and I saw Lex's face there, and I'm like, oh man. So familiar faces, and everybody kind of went on to do great things from that show. I am in Buffalo doing radio, having fun.
Yeah, love it. Nicholas Picholas, Kiss 98.5, right here, right now. I ask no one. Thank you for watching. If you guys have any finding any value in what you're seeing here, hit a like, subscribe. I just became a member of the board of directors of Western New York, American Foundation Suicide Prevention. So
oh wow, okay.
Yeah, with every description,
I do work with a group called Band Against Bullying, which probably has some very similar goals.
Yeah, similar mission.
Yeah, similar mission. I've never been there, so I don't know, but I do know friends. Yeah.
Yep.
Lost some good friends.
Yeah. Same here, Michael J. Holden. This podcast was kind of born out of his passing and honoring him, and connecting with some of the people that he loved to listen to. Like we mentioned Paige Hamilton of Helmet, and Kevin Martin of Candlebox. That was a fun one. In fact, Kevin Martin was performing that weekend. It was 2 days later. No, it was the next night they were performing. It was their first performance in the pandemic, and it streamed live. And I just, for the hell of it, I asked him, hey, any way we could dedicate Far Behind to to Patty and John Holden, and sorry for your loss, whatever, just a few words.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll see if I can remember it. And they go to Utah. Great set, fun set, candles on. We're enjoying it. We're having some wines, Ashlyn and I. And he didn't say anything before Far Behind, their big hit off the debut record.
Sure.
But it was right before that the end chorus comes back in. He said, John and Patty, sorry for your loss, and then went right into the chorus, and that was a really powerful moment.
That's a moment, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an amazing
Wow.
thing, man. So any new subscribers, I make a little small donation to my my page, so it'll be right down there.
Mhm.
Just finishing up here. I know my dad, he wanted to ask you what your favorite decade of music is. I think you've answered that in the 80s. And
I actually, it's hard because I every decade I kind of like. I know where your dad's favorite is, but for me, so I'll say this is probably COVID pandemic related. Is that during this time, I have embraced riding my bike more than ever. Like my inner 12-year-old has been discovered because I rode my bike a lot as a kid. And during the pandemic, there was time to kill and no gigs and whatever. So been riding my bike like it's my job. And the music soundtrack, I started by listening to very new stuff and just kind of whatever. And I keep changing my playlist and migrate it. It's pretty much 1986. And the whole thing is just very funny. It went from being very new music to I would just start deleting those songs that were whatever. There's only a few current ones on there. And then all the old stuff just kept bubbling on. And so it's very funny. If you were to ride with me on my playlist, you'd be it'd be a tough time to figure out what year it actually is right now.
Yeah.
It's in a different time. So I will answer that for your dad and just say the 80s. And your dad's a great guy, by the way. I don't, you don't know that because he's your dad. It's hard to judge your parents, but he really is a good dude.
Yeah, thanks, man. He'll be watching this, and a lot of integrity there, and I draw a lot of inspiration from that.
Yeah. A man of his word.
Yeah, and for my viewers, my dad hosts a wine television show here in town called Spiel the Wine, WGRZ Channel 2. It's a affiliate out of New York, here in Buffalo, New York, and Dad's going on over 10 years having a wine television show where he connects with people in the wine business, and he talks about wines, and he even blows Buffalo up a little bit. Like I said, Buffalo, one of the most underrated food towns, a city of good neighbors. And me being in real estate, you have so many people coming to Buffalo because of the cost of living and the people, and you get the Four Seasons sometimes.
All in one day.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Right. Yeah. All in one day. But Dad started on radio right there with you, if I remember.
Yeah. Right in the same building. That's how I connected with him. And funny thing is, and he knows this better than anybody, I don't drink wine. It's sour grapes to me. It doesn't do anything for me. And I keep saying, dude, when are you going to do Talk the Tequila or whatever? Like, give me a tequila show and I am with you every day.
Ooh. Drinking some of that right down there. What do you got? You got some tequila?
Yak about, that's just orange juice or apple juice or whatever. Yak about the Jaeger. I mean, you could really just do any kind of show with your dad. I will. So I know that you wanted to talk music a little bit today, and I have two people to put on your radar. And the first one is a dude named King Sullivan. And if you're not familiar, electronic metal, really, really loud.
No shit. Okay.
Yeah. And then Grabbits would be the other one that you want to do. And he's a local dude. And he is really, really good electronic Nine Inch Nails kind of person.
Okay. Yeah.
I said King Sullivan King. I'm sorry.
Sullivan King.
Yeah,
is he
Sullivan
local
King.
too? Where's he from?
Earth.
He's from Earth. Okay.
I'm not sure where. I'm not sure he's from. Him and Grabbits are friends, so we do talk about him. And Grabbits is a local performer who's had some radio hits. Has another one right now called "Pigs in the Air." And just we share this love of like Trent Reznor and music and stuff like that. So he's a good dude, and he's local. That's a guy from the 716. Very well connected in music, very smart musically. And then Sullivan King is a dude that he tours with and produces with, but he's got a song out right now called Loud or Louder, which is exactly that. It's a little mix of dubstep, grimy beats, metal, screamo, somewhere in there.
Sweet.
You won't relax listening to his music. And so I think that might be somewhere in your vein of music. You might dig him.
Well, the month right now is June 16th to be exact. I'm out there driving around in my 2020 BMW X3, which after a year and a half, man, I just spent over $3,000 replacing wheels and brakes in a year and a half. So I'm up in Albion, I'm down in Perrysburg, I'm all over the place. So in between showings, I'm gonna check out some Sullivan King and Grabbits.
I'd buy property from you.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
an endorsement.
Would love to help. I'll send you my digital business card. How about that, Nick?
Yeah, please do. My sister does real estate, so I get a lot of great stories of the real estate world.
Yes, very interesting time. Got a last question here from Dr. Casey Bauskill out there in the Pacific Palisades, California. My cousin Casey. Her mother is Elizabeth, and her dad is Rick Bauskill.
Okay.
And Casey, she did a TED Talk, which I'll include a link below to that a few years ago. It was really, really awesome to see my cousin Casey up there on stage. But she
what kind of doctor?
She's in anthropology. And
oh my gosh. Do you know, I'm obsessed with anthropology. That's really cool. I will check that out. Okay, good.
Yeah, she just the human interactions with, and she could explain it way better than I could, but it's interesting stuff. She says, how do you think the Buffalo music scene fits into the bigger Buffalo culture?
Into the bigger Buffalo culture?
Yeah, I think
I never think about it that way. I think about here's what I can tell you about Buffalo, appreciating music in Buffalo. It really is who you know. Your favorite band will be the one that your friend sings in, or that you saw live, or that played at your thing, or the guy you worked with plays bass with them, or there, because Buffalo really is a big town. Everybody knows somebody connected with the band. So when you talk about, I'm going to a show, and I'm not talking a big touring thing, or like, you know, the Goo Goo Dolls obviously are one of those big bands from Buffalo, and there are many that have come through over the years or started here, whatever. The Goo Goo Dolls is a big one with a generation, a few of them, and they're a big deal. And I'm a big fan, but they're kind of a band of America now. Do you know what I mean? They're from Buffalo, but they're kind of all over. So I think about those Buffalo bands that are here and have never left or never grown out of Buffalo, or just are very happy in their place. It really is about who you are connected to through personal people that you know. And you probably have friends in bands where you'll go see them or like them or buy their stuff or whatever, because you have a personal connection. And I think so Buffalo on Buffalo music, I think that has a lot to do with it. You're going to find stuff. You're going to discover things that you're like, oh my God, they're from Buffalo. That's great. But it's a very vibrant scene right now. It always kind of has been, depends what genre you want to look at. A lot of jazz out of Buffalo. Go back 80 years, a lot of jazz out of Buffalo.
Wow.
A lot of brilliant songwriters. Somewhere Over the Rainbow, probably singing about them rooftops. That's probably South Buffalo, as that songwriter grew up on the city's east side. So there are a lot of prominent songwriters that were here or have been here or have connections. You know, you could deep dive into the history of it. I think if you're asking specifically Buffalo on Buffalo music, I think people appreciate what's from their hometown. And again, there's usually a personal connection with a friend, a cousin, or something that has something to do with the band. I think that sometimes that weighs in way more than how good the band is or how successful they are. It has to do with, I saw them at a lawn fete, or they opened up for whatever band or whatever, you know what I mean? Or they played my high school. Like there's that personal connection with the artist. And I think that weighs very heavily in Buffalo when it comes to Buffalo bands. We are lucky that we get a lot of tours here. You know, we're a good stop for a lot of bands between either Buffalo or Darien Lake, which is all kind of the same area. We have a lot of good venues and a lot of good places, and you know, the big touring companies know this is a pretty good stop, pretty reliable audience. You think you're going to sell that many tickets, and you generally do. So we're in a lucky spot.
It's a good answer. And someday, actually, last week, someone asked me something for the first time. What's your end game with I Ask No One podcast? And you know, no one's ever asked me that, but I've thought about it. And someday, would love to bring 50 to 60 to 100,000 people to the Buffalo Niagara area for an I Ask No One festival with previous guests who would come, and we'd have all sorts of different, all sorts of different kinds of music and arts. And my goal is for that to happen by the year 2030. And just something to work for. I'm so busy in real estate, just getting after it. You know, I love my girl and my family and friends, but it's really, this is really kind of blossomed into a nice escape for me. And it's setting up that target kind of thing is fun to strive for and to bring to this region. You know, it's something
Well,
that's
you know where you're going. You know what I mean? Makes it
yeah.
a little easier to get there. So that's pretty cool. Good luck with that. I would say, you know, enjoy just doing the thing. It's, you know, it's about the journey, not the destination, but that's a pretty damn cool destination.
Yeah. Thanks, Nick. Thanks,
Yeah.
Nick. And we'll see you there. But I want to say thank you again, my brother. Next week, I have Kyle Schutz from a band called The Sword out of Austin, Texas. They've opened for Metallica about a decade ago, and they've got a really kind of trippy kind of rock and roll vibe out of Austin, Texas. They're coming to play at the Mohawk Place in September. I'll be there.
Wow.
You know, all these dates are starting to come out. Bands coming through Buffalo, like you said, Buffalo and Darien Lake. So if you like, again, what you saw, hit a like, subscribe, stay happy, stay healthy, stay hungry, and stay fucking heavy. Nick, thanks again, my brother.
Cheers. Nice to hang out.
Yes. Have a good day. Later.
You too.